When you hear highest IQ in NFL history, you probably think of a quarterback, not a running back who supposedly just ran behind a legendary offensive line. For years, critics claim Emmitt Smith was simply lucky, a good player made great by his teammates. They said he was just a product of the Great Wall of Dallas and nothing more. But they were dead wrong. His value was so immense that without him, a Super Bowl winning team completely fell apart. And in a single game with a separated shoulder, he put on a display of toughness so legendary that it left one of the sport's greatest coaches speechless. This is the real story of the mind behind the NFL's all-time rushing record. The year was 1993, and Emmitt Smith had just helped the Dallas Cowboys win Super Bowl 27. As the two-time defending rushing champion, he wanted a contract that reflected his status as the team's offensive engine. His demand was bold for a running back at the time: quarterback money. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones refused to break that financial precedent. He was willing to make Smith the highest-paid running back in the league, using Thurman Thomas's recent four-year, $13.5 million contract as the benchmark. But Smith wanted more. The standoff lasted 64 days. Smith sat out all of training camp and the preseason. Many called it a holdout, but Smith argued his contract had expired, making him a free agent. The real test came when the regular season started. Without Smith, the defending champions were a shell of themselves. They opened with a humbling 35-16 loss to the Washington Redskins. The following week, they lost again to Buffalo, 13-10. This was the same Bills team they had destroyed 52-17 in the Super Bowl just months earlier. The impact went deeper than the scoreboard. The offensive line's loyalty was to Smith, and they reportedly didn't block for rookie replacement Derek Lassick with the same intensity. The breaking point came after the Buffalo loss. Charles Haley, the team's emotional leader, became so enraged he threw his helmet through a wall in the locker room, demanding ownership sign Smith immediately. Jerry Jones wasn't just negotiating with Smith anymore. He was facing an internal rebellion that threatened to derail the entire season. Power moves like this happen in sports all the time, and we see players use their leverage to get what they deserve. Let us know in the comments which contract holdout you remember most. And if you're enjoying this story of football's smartest player, make sure you've subscribed to the channel. With his team in chaos and his locker room on the verge of mutiny, Jerry Jones gave in. 3 days before Week 3, a deal was struck. Jones flew to Atlanta to personally pick up Smith and bring him back to Dallas. The final contract was worth approximately $13.6 million over 4 years, making Smith the highest-paid running back in the NFL. But the real drama was just beginning. Smith returned and was on pace to win his third straight rushing title. Then came the final week of the regular season, January 2nd, 1994. The Cowboys and New York Giants both entered their showdown with identical 11-4 records. This was winner-take-all. The winner would claim the NFC East title and a first-round playoff bye. Dallas dominated the first half, building a 13-0 lead. Smith was brilliant, gashing the Giants' defense. But late in the second quarter, disaster struck. On a long run, Smith was tackled hard on the firm AstroTurf of Giants Stadium. He stayed down, writhing in pain, before walking off under his own power. The halftime diagnosis was devastating: a severely separated shoulder, grade 2 or 3. The injury was excruciating for a running back who relied on his arms for balance, ball security, and fending off tacklers. With Dallas holding a comfortable lead, fullback Daryl Johnston urged him not to return, fearing he'd risk his entire postseason for one half of football. Smith refused. What happened next became legendary in NFL history. Despite being in excruciating pain and unable to lift one arm, Smith insisted on returning for the second half. He wasn't used as a decoy. He remained the absolute focal point of the Dallas offense, repeatedly carrying the ball and taking punishing hits directly on his injured shoulder. The Giants clawed back, tying the game 13-13 late in the fourth quarter to force overtime. With the season hanging in the balance, the Cowboys' game plan stayed simple: give the ball to Emmitt. On the game-winning drive in overtime, Smith's heroism reached its peak. Over the course of the drive, Smith accounted for 41 of the team's 52 yards, touching the ball on 9 of 11 offensive plays. The sequence was pure will: a 2-yard run, a 6-yard reception, an 11-yard catch and run to convert a crucial third down, another reception for 7 yards, a 10-yard burst up the middle. He took crippling hits that forced tears from his eyes, yet he got up every time. His internal mantra was simple: no pain. This wasn't just physical toughness. Smith was executing his highly skilled job at the highest level despite the agony. He was still reading blocks with his trademark vision, making decisive cuts, and securing the football. Smith's heroic drive set up a 41-yard game-winning field goal. The 16-13 victory secured the NFC East title and the critical first-round bye. The magnitude of his effort was immediately recognized. Legendary coach and broadcaster John Madden, who had made a post-game locker room visit only once in 3 decades of broadcasting, came down specifically to shake Smith's hand and tell him he'd never seen a player with more guts. The aftermath was historic. Smith won his 3rd consecutive NFL rushing title with 1,486 yards despite missing the first 2 games. He was named NFL Most Valuable Player. Then he capped the season as Super Bowl 28 MVP after rushing for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns against Buffalo. Smith remains the only player in league history to win the rushing title, regular season MVP, and Super Bowl MVP all in the same season. This brings us to why Emmitt Smith was truly the smartest player in NFL history. His primary weapon wasn't speed or power, but his mind. Critics pointed to his lack of elite breakaway speed, but this fundamentally misunderstood his genius. His football intelligence was a devastatingly effective tool that maximized every play and elevated his Hall of Fame teammates. Smith's running style was a masterclass in efficiency, built on unparalleled vision, patience, and technical precision. Many of his most effective runs were orchestrated behind the line, where he used subtle body positioning, hesitation, and timing to manipulate defenders and allow blocking schemes to develop. His ability to break countless records without elite speed is perhaps the greatest evidence of his intellectual superiority. A perfect example came in a 1993 game against Minnesota. Facing an I formation, Smith had to choose between right and left A-gaps. When the right gap clogged immediately, he shifted focus to the defensive tackle. Reading his center's block leverage, Smith recognized the tackle being pushed right and cut back left in a split second, exploiting the newly created space. Another case study from that season against the New York Jets highlights his ability to defeat defenses designed to stop him. The Jets stacked the box with 8 defenders. Before the play, Smith identified the outside linebacker whose job was maintaining contain. Smith sold the run straight up the middle with no wasted motion, forcing the linebacker to become flat-footed. This gave Cowboys guard Nate Newton the leverage advantage. Once Smith saw Newton seal the linebacker, he made a decisive cutback, turning a minimal gain into a 10-yard run. The common narrative that Smith was simply a product of his offensive line ignores a crucial dynamic. Smith's intelligence didn't just benefit from the Great Wall of Dallas. It actively maximized the line's potential. His patience allowed linemen to engage in simpler blocks. His vision ensured he hit the precise hole at the exact moment it opened, making blocks look dominant. His ability to manipulate defenders would freeze linebackers or safeties, making blockers' jobs exponentially easier. The Dallas Cowboys dynasty was built on an offensive philosophy of balance, orchestrated by coordinator Norv Turner. The attack featured 3 future Hall of Famers: quarterback Troy Aikman, receiver Michael Irvin, and Smith, collectively known as the Triplets. This system put defenses in impossible binds, but its functionality depended entirely on the credibility of each threat. The dynamic was brutally effective. If defenses deployed 2 deep safeties to prevent Irvin from getting behind them, Turner called runs and Smith went down your throat. If defenses stacked the box with 8 defenders to stop Smith, Aikman, and Irvin would eat you up with one-on-one matchups outside. The passing game, particularly the devastatingly effective play action, only worked because defenses genuinely feared the run on every single down. This fear wasn't born from the threat of 70-yard touchdowns, but from near certainty that Smith would gain positive yardage. His supreme football IQ ensured he could consistently find creases and move chains even against unfavorable defensive fronts. Head coach Jimmy Johnson's record when Smith rushed for over 100 yards was an astonishing 24-1. in the regular season and perfect 5-0 in the postseason, including 2 Super Bowl victories. Smith wasn't just part of the system, he was its trigger. Emmitt Smith's record of 18,355 rushing yards isn't merely a number. It's the result of a powerful synergy between intellect, leverage, and grit. His football IQ was the foundational element that generated unprecedented production through superior vision, patience, and technical mastery. The 1993 contract dispute demonstrated his understanding of football's business battlefield. His calculated standoff was necessary to assert his value. The team's collapse in his absence, followed by his historic MVP season, provided undeniable validation that he wasn't a cog in the machine, but its very heart. Finally, his legendary performance with a separated shoulder forged that validated value into an immortal legacy of toughness. That single game provided a narrative of courage so powerful it transcended statistics, crystallizing his identity as a warrior and silencing remaining critics. The intellect produced the yards, the leverage ensured those yards were properly valued, and the grit immortalized the man who earned them. Together, these elements created the most consistent, intelligent, and resilient running back in professional football history. So the next time someone says Emmitt Smith was just a product of his offensive line, you'll know the real story of the smartest player who ever stepped on an NFL field. If this opened your eyes to Smith's true genius, hit that like button and let us know in the comments which aspect impressed you most.